You are now listening to the Building Her Dream podcast, where we have inspiring conversations with introverted women entrepreneurs who are building their dream lives and businesses on their own terms. Hosted by business operations strategist, author, and the founder of Building Her Dream, Shayla Burton. To learn more about this podcast and our magazine, visit www.buildingherdream.com. Hello, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Welcome to the Building Her Dream podcast. I'm your host, a lifelong introvert, Shayla Burton, and I'm so excited to chat with today's guest. She is Catalina Restrepo, an immigration attorney and financial coach from Florida. Hello, Catalina. Welcome to the show.
Hi, Shayla. Thank you so much for having me here. I really appreciate it, and I'm so grateful to be here.
Yes, I'm so grateful to be chatting with you today, which is really exciting because you are on the cover of our November-December issue of the Building Her Dream magazine. So if you have not checked out that issue, you should definitely go ahead to our website on buildingherdream.com and check that out as well. But before we dive into a little bit more about you, Catalina, I'm wondering if you could wake up tomorrow and have your perfect dream life, what would that look like? Or you might already be living that dream life.
Well, I feel like I'm already living that dream life. I've been designing a lifestyle that I love. I currently live part-time in the States, part-time in Colombia, which is where I'm originally from. So I feel like I am living my dream life. However, there are certain goals and dreams that I still want to achieve, and certain things that I'm working towards accomplishing in 2025.
Nice, nice. So what's like one main goal that you're looking to accomplish?
Well, for 2025, the big goal is to start a nonprofit organization to promote school for children in Guatemala. I would like to set this up and do some, hands-on kind of work and build schools or reamp schools, whatever the community may need. Kind of work with the community to make this happen as well. And I feel very strongly about education, and I think as children, we start to cultivate that in them, then they'll grow up to be curious adults and continue this learning journey. So that's where 2025 is taking me.
Yeah, yeah. Well, that's really awesome. I'm excited to see that goal come to fruition.
Thank you. Thank you. I'll keep you posted, of course.
Yes, please do. Now, for our listeners who have not heard about you yet, why don't you tell us a little bit about you and the work that you do?
Okay, well, like you mentioned, my name is Catalina. I am originally from Colombia, South America. My family migrated to the States when I was 12 years old, and I grew up in a very cold place where not many Colombians migrate to, the state of Minnesota. That's where I grew up. I went to high school, college up there. And I felt like there was something missing. And then after college, I decided to, have a big change. And that's when I moved to South Florida. And I lived there for a couple years, was living my best life. And then I got into law school, so I packed up my things again and I moved back up north. I moved up to Michigan. The cold again, the cold weather where not many Colombians live either. But I went to Michigan with a very specific purpose, which was obtaining my law degree. And I was there for a little while, and again with the goal to come back to South Florida. So after going to law school, went back to South Florida, got my bar license, and I've been practicing law since 2011. I've had my own practice since 2015. So going on 10 years next year, very exciting for us. And as an immigrant myself, I decided to focus my practice on immigration, where I've been practicing pretty much since I got my license. And then, shortly after I started practicing, I started to look around and I started to see the lifestyle of my colleagues, of attorneys that have been practicing for quite a while. And I discovered that maybe that wasn't the lifestyle I wanted for myself. And that's where I started to look around to see what else was out there, what other avenues to create wealth and have an amazing lifestyle would take me. And I got introduced to something called network marketing. And I was like, you know what? This sounds like something I enjoy. And it was focusing a lot on education, but not the type of education we see in schools. It was more like financial education, emotional education, self-esteem, more real life kind of education and tools. And when I would present the business model to people, I would start running into the same obstacles. People would say, well, I don't have time, I don't have money. And when we discussed the money issue, I discovered that it was a lot of mentality and what our limiting beliefs were around money. As a culture in the Latino community, money sometimes it's seen as evil or the root of all evil. And so I started to dive into this a little bit more. And that's where the idea to put all these ideas on paper came from. And that's how kind of my book came from. And last year, around this time, we launched it. It is currently in English and Spanish. Take Charge of Your Finances is on Amazon. And I launched it in Spanish first, and it became a bestseller right away on Amazon.
Wow.
And that was a great accomplishment because last year was a roller coaster of a year. A lot of good things, very exciting things happening, and also emotionally very turbulent year for me. So it's been one of those like finding a balance and finding joy in your life that led me to spend a little bit more time in 2024 here in Colombia.
Mm. Okay, so you've definitely had a pretty interesting journey, and sounds like a real journey of discovery of figuring out what brings you joy and kind of moving into that. You mentioned that, when you became an attorney, you started looking at the lifestyles of other attorneys and realized that wasn't quite what you wanted. Can you explain a little bit more, like what was the typical lifestyle of an attorney that didn't really align with you?
Well, statistically, attorneys have held the number one and number two spots for addictions. So I started to see a lot of addiction in my area. So it was drinking or drugs or gambling. And throughout law school, in our ethics class, that was emphasized a lot. The
Mm,
importance of self-care, making sure that we were taking time to take care of myself. But once I got into the real life kind of practice and I started to see, that we're very social people and sometimes the drinking would lead into other things. And I was like, wow, this is kind of something to look at and then I started to see attorneys that were working 24/7. We would see attorneys working 70, 80 hours a week, not seeing their families. And I said, well, that's not what I want. I want a balanced life. I want to be able to take vacation and really unplug from my office, which is something I would see my boss not being able to do. For example, he would go on vacation and he would call throughout the day, every single day. And then I said, well, that's not what I want for me. I want to be able to have a good, healthy work life, and I want good, healthy home life, and find that balance between the two. And having a lot of freedom with my time was something that I really desired. Um,
Mhm.
and I would see my colleagues just being consumed by the office, by the work. Being an attorney takes an emotional toll many times. For example, I decided not to represent detained clients early on in my career. When I worked for somebody, that was part of my job. I would have to go into detention centers and represent those immigrant people that were detained
Mhm.
for something. It could be something as simple as a driving infraction to, many times something a little bit more serious. And just seeing them in that particular setting was really, really heartbreaking for me. So early on, I started making certain decisions as to who I would or wouldn't represent, just because I needed to take care of myself first. And making that a priority. And in turn, in my office, we make that a priority as well. We emphasize the importance of self-care. And, when we're in the office, we're being productive, we're getting everything that we need done. But that clock hits 5 on the dot, and I'm literally kicking everyone out of the office because I
Love that.
emphasize that time with family, time to, do nothing if you want. We don't need to be doing all the time. Um,
Right.
so finding that balance and seeing the type of lifestyle and building the lifestyle that I wanted was important.
Yes, yes. I love that. I love that you have that mentality because a lot of entrepreneurs are just kind of like go, go, go. That's kind of the culture that we're in where it's like you're always supposed to be working, doing something to move your business forward. And they just don't realize that you do need time to rest and um step away from the business, and that really benefits you and your business as well because when you're well rested, your brain is more relaxed, you can think clearly, you're more creative. um but if you are just in that hustle mode, it's so stressful, and it really affects how productive you can be in that
And
state.
many times the life in and of itself has a way of telling you or showing you this is the time that you need to rest. So, for
Mhm.
example, in 2020 pandemic year, I tell people I started pandemic earlier than everyone. January 11th, I used to own and ride a motorcycle. And
Mm.
in a little tiny stupid accident, I broke my tibia plateau. For those, doctors and in the medical field, be like, oh, bad break. It's one of the worst breaks that a person can have because they actually have to rebuild part of the top of the tibia. So it's
Mhm.
it's kind of like the top, and then here's your knee.
Mhm.
So I broke my tibia plateau, and I was bedridden for 10 weeks.
Oh,
So
wow.
life told me this is your stop moment. This is the time where you need to reevaluate what you need to do differently, because in 2019 I was going all the time. I mean, 7 days out of the week I was working, 10 days out of the week, literally going. And I had a business partner at the time, and I'm so grateful he was there during that moment because I was able to completely step away from my office and do a full recovery. But it was that, you know, full stop break. You can't do anything but take care of yourself. So I always emphasize to entrepreneurs, if you don't take care of yourself, life is going to throw a curveball at you that will make you stop and take care of yourself. And unfortunately, it's during those really drastic moments that we realize that we need to make certain changes. So I encourage entrepreneurs. We are here creating, a business and building a business, and that's all very exciting, but we want the business to work for us. We don't want to continue working on the business 24/7. And many times is raising our hand and saying, "Hey, I need an assistant," or "Hey, I need someone that's better than me at doing something." For example, accounting and bookkeeping. People are like, "Oh, I can do that." I said, "I'll hire somebody. I'm not an expert. I barely know how to balance my checkbook." And people are like, "Well, aren't you a finance coach?" I said, "No, I'm a money mindset coach." So we're going to talk
Mhm.
about what mentality around money we have. But the numbers and the accounting and the strategies, we're going to leave that to the financial advisors, to the bookkeepers, to the accountants that are the very professionals in those fields. And then I kind of give them an example. If you have appendicitis and you need to have surgery, would you want the surgeon to perform the surgery, or would you want a receptionist, or would you want the
Mm.
assistant, or would you want the cleaning lady doing those things? And everyone immediately says, "Well, no, I want the surgeon." Well, let's implement the surgeons in our lives.
Yeah.
Let's find a group of people that are better than us so we can strengthen our business and work together into a win-win situation. So
Yeah.
we don't
I
have to be experts at everything.
Right, right. I agree with you completely. And especially as introverts, we we need to conserve our energy because doing all of this work definitely takes a lot out of us. What are some things that you do to kind of recharge?
It's really funny because now that I'm spending more time in Colombia, people here always live with other family members.
Hmm.
And growing up in the States, and I moved away from home when I was 18, I've been out on my own for a grand majority of my time. So moving back to Colombia and having my own space, creating my own space, sometimes it's kind of like, "Oh, you live by yourself?" And I'm like, "Yes, I love it." They're like, "Really?" Yes, because it gives me that opportunity to recharge, like you say. So for example, I love meditating, and I've incorporated that into my daily routine because it allows me to have that space where I'm quiet and with my company, which I think everyone's own company is the best company, and
Yes.
learning to quiet down our minds and really ground ourselves to be able, like you said, recharge, to be able to put our best efforts forward and be able to give the energy to others. So, having that space to myself and with myself has created a huge change into my entire dynamic and being able to recharge and create these wonderful spaces where I'm sharing with others.
Yeah, I love that. I also live alone and some people be like, "Oh, don't you get bored? Don't you get lonely?" No. I enjoy my space. Like when I feel like I need to be social, I can call somebody or I can go out, but I do need a lot of me time.
It's really funny because it was my birthday on Tuesday, and so
Mm.
everyone was calling, everyone was reaching out. My sister came and spent the day with me, so it was a really good atmosphere. And then for dinner, she surprised me. She gathered like my families and
Mm.
friends at a restaurant, and I was completely surprised. And I was
Yeah.
like, "Wow, this is a lot of people." And then yesterday, I was like still catching up from the text and the messages and stuff. And I was just thinking to myself, I just need a day where I only need to answer to the DoorDash or, Uber Eats kind
Yep.
of situation and be able to walk around my apartment barefoot and not have to socialize so much. So I do understand when we get to choose. We get to
Mm,
choose. And I think as introverts, that is so important to embrace. And everyone in general, I think too, that we get to choose the time, the space that we give to others. And then I think we become a little bit more selective as to who we share our time and space with. I remember when I was in college that I wanted to always live with somebody. Like, I didn't want to
mm,
live by myself. But yet there would be those moments where I didn't want to talk to anybody. So it would be kind of finding that balance. And as I've gotten older, it's been, kind of eye-opening that I get to choose when and where I share my time and who I share my time with in my space. So
yeah. Hmm. Yeah, definitely agree. Um, I'm wondering, do you remember like when you first discovered that you were an introvert? Because I can't quite remember like when I first even heard that term, but I feel like I was probably in my 20s or something, like well into adulthood when I discovered that term and then like was like, "Oh yeah, that's me." Do you, do you even remember?
it's funny because I think people, when they meet me, then they're like, oh, you're not an introvert at all. You are like social butterfly. And I said, there's a time and place for me to be a social butterfly when I need to
Mhm,
network, when I need to promote certain things. But me as a person, require a lot more alone time to be
mm,
able to recharge. And I think I started discovering that I would say more in law school. So a little bit later than college. I didn't go to law school right after college. But I think a little bit more into my law school career. And I started discovering those alone time would really recharge me to be more productive, to be
mm,
more balanced. And then as the time progressed, now I feel like I'm becoming more and more of an introvert. And living here in Colombia has allowed me to really recharge and connect a lot more with myself, with my roots, learning to ground myself, and then the time and space that I'm able to give to others is a lot more productive.
mhm, mhm. Yeah, I've heard from quite a few people who say that, they know that they're introverts, but other people don't believe that they're introverts. And I think it's due to the misconception that an introvert is shy, doesn't like to be in social situations, don't really like to talk to people, and that's that is not true. We just communicate in different ways. So like for me, I if I'm in a group of people, I'm probably saying the least amount of things. I might be saying nothing in in that group, but if you get me one on one, you could hear me talk for hours because I have a lot to say and it's easier for me to have conversations when it's just one other person that I have to focus on. And so yeah, I think it's just that misconception that introverts can't be social, which is not true. We're just selectively social.
Right. And because we are selectively many times for many of us, like this happens to me, if I'm in a social setting with a lot of people for too long, then it's like someone unplugs my battery and I'm just like,
Yes.
oh my gosh, what is this? So I've learned when I'm going to be in these social settings then I'm going to do a little bit of self-care beforehand. So
Mhm.
I am prepared for these settings. So I am prepared for this, high energy kind of environment. And that
Right.
way I'm not so drained by the end of the event or the day following. So
Mhm.
planning ahead has really helped me, focus and be able to recover from that high energy
Yeah.
situation a little bit better and faster.
Hmm. Now, what do you do beforehand? So for me, I don't really do anything beforehand, but afterwards, I know that I have to schedule like a day where I have nothing on my calendar. Nobody can bother me if I have like an event. For example, the networking events that I host, I know that the very next day I'm going to be drained and I need that time just for myself to recharge. But I haven't figured out, like, what I can do beforehand, and so I'm curious, like, what do you do to prepare?
So something I like to do is walk around barefoot. And it sounds something silly. And I used to get scolded a lot as a young kid that would want to walk around barefoot all the time. But what I've learned is that energetically, that helps me reconnect with the earth.
Mm,
So it helps me recharge my battery kind of thing. And so, for example, taking a 10-minute, 15-minute walk in the grass, like for
mm,
example, if I know that I'm going to be out, like on Friday, we're going to go out, it's going to be a lot of people. It's kind of a little concert in a park. So I know it's a lot of energy. So I know today I'm going to go take a couple, minutes, walk around barefoot, just kind of get in the right mindset of I'm going to be surrounded by people and that's okay. And I'm going to guard my energy and I'm recharging and just do like a little meditation of you like visualizing yourself kind of getting all that energy from the earth and just having it travel through your chakras into your entire body and I feel that that helps me recharge. um and I can always go for a bath. I mean, that will definitely help to me. For example, that's kind of my happy place. And as I talk about it in my book, it's kind of one of my $1 million moments.
mm.
So if I can take a hot shower or a bath right after I come home from these events. So something before, just taking a little walk, kind of grounding myself, recharging, getting all that energy from our Mother Earth. And then when I come home, just kind of letting everything flow and, letting all that energy go that doesn't belong to me and just keeping my own energy. And that kind of helps me, in those particular settings.
Gotcha. Okay, okay, that's pretty interesting. I definitely will need to kinda look into some different ways that I can prepare because I know for next year I want to focus on doing a lot of speaking engagements. And so I know that's going to take a lot of energy. And so I'll need to figure something out.
You know what? Something I've implemented, for example, in my consultations with clients. It's a lot of heavy energy, a lot of sad stories, many times, and I have an obsidian rock. It's a little black round crystal that I keep on my desk, and sometimes I have the bracelet,
Okay.
and I keep it handy so when I am in those kind of high energy situations, the rock will help me absorb some of that energy as well.
Hmm.
Um, so those are little tips that I've, kind of picked up along the way. And I think it's just finding what suits you best, a lot of trial and error. Um, with the walking around barefoot, some people don't like being barefoot, and that's okay. But then finding what is it that works for you, maybe taking a 15-minute meditation, for example, right before you leave the house and doing that, or maybe taking a little nap, or just a lot of trial and error. But in the big energy settings, I do find that having a little health from different crystals is beneficial as well.
Mhm. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I'll definitely have to look into that. Mhm. Yeah. What's a challenge that you've had to overcome as you've been, growing your business over the last almost 10 years?
Wow. um, I think looking at the last 10 years, obviously a lot of trial and error,
Yeah.
but something that I wish I would have done a lot sooner is get different mentors for different areas of your life. So I mentioned earlier, I started to see attorneys that didn't have the lifestyle that I wanted. So when I look for a mentor, I start to look and see what kind of lifestyle do they have. So for example, if I'm looking for a financial advisor, I'm going to look at that financial advisor's life. You know,
Right.
are they living a life that's aligned with the type of life that I want? An accountant, is this an accountant that has their own finances in order, you know, or are they an accountant that is all over the place? You know, do we want to trust someone with our finances that is not aligned with our values? So I feel like getting different mentors. And I say different mentors in different areas of your life because I look at life like a table with a couple different legs. So there's your spiritual side, your financial side, your emotional side. If you have a life partner, then there is your, family life. If you don't have a life partner, but you have kids or whatever, that pillar is very important. And if you don't have kids like me, I don't have kids, I don't have a husband yet. Um, does this person have a lifestyle that I want kind of situation? And seeing what works for them. Because if we are going to try to implement all sorts of things in our lives, we're going to have this trial and error kind of situation, and we're going to waste a lot of time.
Mhm.
Versus if we raise our hand and we say, "Hey, I need help in this area of my life," and mirror what other people are doing, then we're going to get to our destination a lot faster, which is kind
Mm.
of a change in mentality because in our school system, we want to excel. We want to be, not copying somebody. How many times, were we told you can't copy, you can't copy? In the real
Mhm.
world, we want to copy what is successful out there. If you have a business and you have something that's working for you, I would want to know what that is, and maybe I could implement some of those things into my business, you know?
Mhm.
So copying each other is very helpful. It's going to help us get to our destination way faster. And I think we need to promote as entrepreneurs, hey, copy me. This is what's working for me. What's working for you? Let me copy you because we can
Yeah.
help each other.
Mhm. Yeah, I think that's great advice about, looking for a mentor who has a lifestyle that you're looking for. Because a lot of times I think some of us just get mentors because the person said that they made 7 figures, and so, "Oh, yeah, I wanna make 7 figures. Let me get with that person," but you don't see how they made that 7 figures, like, they might have been working from Sunday to Saturday, from sunup to sundown, and if you don't wanna do all of that, then that probably is not the path for you.
Exactly. And then copying something that doesn't align with you, well, that's
Mhm.
not going to give you the results of the person that, is advertising those results.
Yeah.
So it's really looking around and finding the best mentor for you
Mhm.
ultimately.
Yeah, yeah, and I think too, you before you even can look for the best mentor, you have to really know what you truly want as well, and that sometimes can take a while to discover that. I know for me, it took me years to really figure out what I want for my life and my business because I thought that, I just want to make money and make a lot of money. And that was my main focus, but it's really not. As I've been on this journey, I've realized that money is not the main thing. Like I really, like you mentioned before, I just want to have joy. I want to enjoy my life. And I want to, be able to take time off when I want to take time off, and I want to be able to vacation and relax and all of that stuff. And I don't need to make seven figures to do that.
And
And so
you
yeah.
bring up an amazing point, and it's something that I talk about in my book. Um, what is success? What
Hmm.
is the lifestyle you want?
Yeah.
Because a lot of people out there are like, oh, make seven figures, eight figures, make this much amount of money. Well, what does your lifestyle require?
Hmm.
Everyone's lifestyle is different.
Yeah.
So I always use myself as an example. I was seen as a successful woman. I have my own practice. Um, at that point, I had six or seven employees. Um, this was back in 2019. Yeah, I was successful, quote unquote, by everyone's standards. I travel. Traveling has always been so important to me. Um, but I wasn't happy. I didn't feel fulfilled. I didn't enjoy my own company. I mean, and I didn't feel successful.
Hmm.
So when other people see you as successful and you don't even feel successful, that that's a big disconnect.
Yeah.
And actually earlier today, someone asked me, "So are you for real, like spending more time here in Colombia?" I said, "Yeah." And they asked me why. What made you take that leap? And I just looked at her and I said, I'm happy here. I feel
Mhm.
happy. And like I mentioned earlier, last year was a year of a lot of ups and downs and a lot of learning experiences. But at the end of the day, when I would close my eyes and I would think of where and when did I feel happy, it went back to being here in Colombia. And just because I'm here in Colombia doesn't mean I'm stuck here. And I always tell people, well, I'm not a tree. I can just get up and move. I can pick up and, hop on an airplane and be anywhere I want to be.
Yeah.
So I am here today. And it's funny because people ask me, well, when are you coming back? I said, I don't know. I only buy one-way tickets.
Mm.
Because if I'm here in Colombia a week and something happens that requires me to be anywhere else, then I can pick up and go. But that notion of, oh, well, this is the type of lifestyle I gotta live. No, we get to design our own lifestyle. We get to design how we want to live our lives. And if the life that we design is a little bit higher on the budget spectrum than what we're making now, then we need to become creative to, make more money. Or if it's within the budget, then we get to design what that life looks like. But it's ultimately us, each of us making the choices that are right for us. For example, if I turn around and tell you, well, success looks like you leaving Wisconsin and coming to live in Florida. Well, maybe you never want to come and live in Florida. Maybe you're like, oh, it's too
Right.
hot for me. I love Wisconsin. I love the cheese, whatever that may be. So it's getting to know ourselves so much better and getting to know what we want and where we want to go. But it starts with each one of us. And
Mhm.
many times, unfortunately, we look out, we look outward. What does society expect of me? What do my parents expect of me? My coworkers, my boss, maybe, you know. And if we start to put all those opinions aside and really decide based on the most important opinion, which is our own opinion, our decisions start to look a little bit different.
Yeah. Mhm. Yeah. Love that. Love that. Um, I'm looking at the time. I'm like, darn, there's more stuff I want to talk to you about.
I know this has gone by so fast.
It has. It has. Catalina, it has been so great chatting with you. Before we go, I just want to give you the opportunity. If there's anything else you want to share, you can do so now. Or you can just let our listeners know where they can find out more information and contact you.
Well, thank you. I want to begin by thanking you, giving me this space. I'm so, so grateful. This has been an amazing experience, and our time flies by so fast. So it's always a pleasure to be sharing here with you. For the people listening, if you guys want to buy my book, it's on Amazon. It's in English and Spanish. In English, it's called Take Charge of Your Finances. Bright pink cover, just like me, pink all the time. And then if you guys want to reach out, I'm on Instagram as well. My handle is CATA Restrepo, Restrepo, my last name, dot official. And you'll see it's all pink, so you can't miss me. And I would be more than happy to connect with people, reach out, send me a message, and we can have conversations.
Awesome. Yes, so we'll have those links in our show notes so people can find you. Again, it was wonderful chatting with you, and I look forward to, staying in touch and seeing what you do next.
Thank you. Yes, I'm very excited for 2025 for you and all those
Yeah.
speaking engagements. I know you're going to be wonderful and, give
Yes.
people so much of your wisdom and wonderful experiences. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Yes, you're welcome. And thank you to our audience for listening. This has been another episode of the Building Her Dream podcast. If you've enjoyed it, why don't you go ahead and subscribe, leave us a review, and stay up to date with what we're doing by visiting www.buildingherdream.com.